Hi, yeah, absolutely honored to be following Yoni and the amazing work that they did with that biomed product with lion's mane. Truly, truly phenomenal. So you've probably been hearing a lot about fungi already. I hope you're not like, cup is totally full, and we can talk about some new stuff that you haven't heard about yet. So why are we talking so much about fungi right now, right? So it is the fourth largest category of sales in nutraceutical food supplement industry in North America. Whole Foods is calling it one of the top 3 food trends of the year this year, but also last year and the year before. So it's getting a lot of really big momentum, a lot of big push. Why? Where is that coming from? So our company is really focused on some key values, right? When we think about how we make these products or how we grow these mushrooms, we think about sustainability. How does that look? How does this whole ecosystem look? How does a holistic environment around that fungi operate? We also look at transparency, and then of course a very strong commitment to science. So if we're going to be deciding how to grow reishi, we care about the compounds that are important for your health, right? The compounds important for sleep or those biomarkers for immunity. That's how we decide those things. So yeah, so we supply to a lot of different brands and industries. So here you can see, pet food industry, cosmetic industry, beverage industry, food supplement, nutraceutical industry. Pretty much now everyone is putting some kind of fungi in something, which is really exciting. So why are we doing this, right? Why fungi all of a sudden? 5 years ago, 10 years ago, this wasn't something we talked about so much, right? Why right now? And I want to take you really far back, in a way, in the next 6 minutes. Why are we talking about fungi? So if we think about a long time ago, there was this big asteroid came down and boom, blew up the whole world, right? All these dinosaurs died. And what happened is a lot of just dead wood material was lying around. So what do fungi do? They're mostly saprophytic. They're going to decompose that dead wood. So we had the boom of fungi. Out of that boom of fungi, there was a totally different environment for creatures like us to be sort of evolving and growing and thinking about. Mammals existed then, right? So we are warm-blooded. We have an innate ability to sort of protect ourselves against fungal infections. We get fungal infections still, yes. As we age, our body temperature goes down and we're more susceptible. Also on our feet and our hands, sometimes we get some fungal infections. But we've actually adapted our bodies in the context of fungi, right? So we are more closely related to fungi than we are to plants. We have a very similar immune system. We have receptors for the compounds that they produce. We breathe oxygen out. Carbon dioxide out, we breathe oxygen in, hopefully, right? Just like fungi. So we have very similar metabolism, very similar type of way of being. So now let's talk about a little bit mushrooms that we're really focused on now, this fungi that we're focused on now. So you probably have heard of Chaga. Being in Finland, this is a really big deal. We have the most organic certified forest in the entire world, packed with chaga growing on these living birch trees. So here you can see a little bit about the compounds. These are the structures that they are. So Beta-glucan, it's adaptogenic, immunosupporting, but also inositol, butylenic acid, melanin, supporting this antioxidant regime. So here you can see a graph about different type of substances and their antioxidant value, right? So chaga is that big graph on the left. It's huge. It can be like 100, 200 times that of forest blueberries or acacia berries in the ORAC value. So incredibly supporting our DNA and RNA, allowing them to not get totally destroyed by free radicals, and allowing us to live longer, a little bit better life. When we think about reishi, these are the compounds that we're really looking at. So again, beta-glucans are very present in reishi, but also secondary metabolites such as ganodermic acids that are supporting sleep and these kind of things. So if we look here, this is actually a graph of all the different sort of pathways that reishi is affecting and supporting sleep. It can be over actually 50. So we found, 51 genes related to sleep that it's affecting. So when we start to get resistance toward melanin, something like that, reishi has so many different pathways that it's affecting this sort of sleep pathways that it can still be working. And one really nice thing that we've been finding more with recent studies is it's neurodegenerative. So it's also supporting brain health, which is really important. So I'm going to go through lion's mane also. So you just heard a lot about lion's mane, and I was listening backstage, and Yoni did a phenomenal job explaining really what these erinacine and heracenone compounds are. Absolutely fantastic. And he was exactly right. They're incredibly neuroprotective. And if you want to take a look, this is actually how they look. So, I got a laser pointer. So if we look at the heracenone compound, that's the actual structure. Hericenones, right? So these are really, that's actually what's happening. That's the compound. And he had a very similar slide, but if you look at what NGF does for us, it's phenomenal. So if we think about a control, and we think about when you add NGF, we look at that massive neurogenesis. We look at that massive new connections that can come out of our brains. And we know that our brains, they really start to, I don't know if degrade is the right word, but we start to kind of go down in brain cells after you hit 30, right? One other issue we have is amyloid beta plaque buildup. So we know that dementia is kind of just like cancer in a way. It's a kind of scale. We all have a little bit of cancer growing in us. We all have amyloid beta plaque buildup in our brain. So these NGF stimulation by erinacines and heracenone compounds from lion's mane can also help to reduce that amyloid beta plaque buildup. Lion's mane has over 20 human clinical trials showing 8 times increase of NGF. So when we think about NGF, it's very important, but we can't take like an IV of NGF, right? You can't do that. You can't take an NGF pill. It doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. So it never gets up actually into your brain. But these compounds from lion's mane actually do, and then they are stimulating NGF. So this is really important. Okay, so what's next, right? So now we have fungi in cosmetics, we got fungi in pet food, everything. What's really the next space? So at Kappa, that's where we excel, right? We are listening to your feedback, we're checking the market, we're going to all the big expos, and we're trying to see what is that next place that mushrooms can be held in. You might have seen recently Dave Asprey and many other biohackers have really been popularizing this new trend, right? You wake up in the morning and you kind of expose the lower half of your body to sun. It peaks that cortisol, it gets you up in the morning and gets that vitality, going. So we have developed basically perineum sunning lotion. So if you want to, come stop by the booth. We got a bunch of bottles for sale. Happy for you to give it a shot. Thanks so much, everybody.